he decided to settle in the city of Basra, and that's where he got his name, Al-Hasan al-Basri. Okay, his chief disciple was Malik ibn Dinar. And Malik ibn Dinar was the famous soldier. He's got one of the most amazing stories. He was just an officer. He was a low-level officer of the Umayyads, and he was somebody who was drinking. He was not doing anything good with his life. And then nobody would marry him. Right? No father-in-laws would ever accept him. And so he finally had to take a prostitute and marry her. And he did. And in the marriage, he was just like a married man, but, still not praying, drinking. And then he had a daughter. And he loved this daughter so much. Then she died at a young age, around 5, 6, 7 years old, like when she could talk. And she died. He said, I became so angry that day that I decided I'm going to get more drunk than I've ever gotten before. And he got so drunk that night that he was in a stupor and he knocked out. There he had a dream of the Qiyamah, that he was resurrected and that a beast the size, the body of a bear, but the size of a wolf. The shape of a wolf, but the size of a bear. Could you imagine a wolf, right, running on 4 legs, but the size of a bear? And he said, and I was a small man running away from this vicious, vicious wolf. And this wolf is just right, its mouth is like right about to get me, and I see an old man. And I begged the old man for help. The old man said, look at me. I'm a frail old man. What can I do for you? And I ran, running for my life from this wolf. And I see another old man, and I beg him. And he said, nothing I can do for you. And then finally, I hear my daughter's voice. I hear her voice. She's saying, Father, come here, come here. And I look, and I see my daughter at a house, and she opens a door. And I run into the door, and she closes the door. And I'm safe. And she turns to me, and she says, Father, أَلَمْ يَأْنِ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَن تَخْشَعَ قُلُوبُهُمْ لِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ وَمَا نَزَلَ مِنَ الْحَقِّ. Isn't it time for the believers, for their hearts to soften to the awe of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? أَلَمْ يَأْنِ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَن تَخْشَعَ قُلُوبُهُمْ لِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ وَمَا نَزَلَ مِنَ الْحَقِّ. So your heart should soften with awe to what Allah has revealed. And then he woke up. He woke up. That wolf was his bad deeds. That old man was his good deeds. So immediately he woke up in a complete sweat. He ran, made ghusl, made wudu, ran to the masjid. He was the first one in the masjid that day for Fajr. He gets in and prays with everybody else. He's in the first row. And the imam recites Surah Al-Fatiha and then opens the surah. And the first verse that he recites is أَلَمْ يَأْنِ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَن تَخْشَعَ قُلُوبُهُمْ لِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ وَمَا نَزَلَ مِنَ الْحَقِّ. Immediately, he faints. I mean, this is not a man who's accustomed to this, work with the unseen. But he saw it directly. From that moment on, he began his journey. And Malik ibn Dinar began merely as a musalli with Hasan al-Basri. Musalli, just someone who prays 5 times a day. That was a big deal for him. Just pray 5 times a day. Then sit in the gathering. Then, can I get you something? He became a khadim. He was a servant. And then a student. And then an assistant. And then he became the imam after Hasan al-Basri. He became his number 2 man. Okay. Over a span of years and years and years of studying with Hasan al-Basri and serving him. Okay. Then as Malik ibn Dinar came of age, you see, this is how Allah takes someone's bad deeds and makes them into good deeds. He was known for bringing drunkards off the street and into the masjid. That's how you turn your bad deeds into good deeds, is by the idea and the concept that you use what you understood, what you learned. Okay. Now, despite you shouldn't have done that, but even if you did do that, you did learn something, right? You learned something about the mentality of a drinker, etc., etc. So he would bring them off, and he would have mercy for them and bring them into the masajid and they would make tawbah with him. Okay. He would make tawbah with them. Hasan al-Basri at that time, him and Sufyan al-Thawri, was younger than him, they would visit Rabi'a al-Adawiyya and they would exchange wisdom with her, right? And Rabi'a al-Adawiyya was a woman that was so ascetic, she was so zahid, that she viewed Hassan al-Basri as a man of dunya. And he said that Sufyan and Hassan al-Basri would leave weeping. They would leave their house weeping, and her house, or the visit with her, weeping, saying, "We're people of dunya, we're people of dunya." Right? That's what how much that. For example, one time, she said, "Give me a wisdom." Yeah, say something wise. He said, "Whoever knocks on the door of Allah Ta'ala, it will eventually it will open. Whoever keeps man lazama qar' al-bab futiha lah." Whoever persists on knocking on the door of Allah, it will be open to. Meaning in dua, in tawbah, whatever it is that you're seeking. Her answer to him was, "And since when is it closed?" Right? So she would always be one step ahead of them in zuhud. That's Rabi'a al-Adawiyya. And then Hassan al-Basri, he has a lot of wisdoms. Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, the great Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, he was the Khalifa, and he would ask him for advice. And I don't know if he was Khalifa at the time. Hassan Basri was alive. I think that's after. But during his life, he would ask him for advice. And he gave him a great piece of advice. He says, "Inna alladhi yashabuka la yansahuk. Walladhi yansahuk la yashabuk." This is a really great piece of advice. Hassan, he says to him, he says, the one who keeps your company, he's not going to give you good advice. He's not going to be your advisor. And the one who advises you, okay, is not going to keep your company. Which means, like, if you have a group of friends and one of your friends goes, like, he needs some piece of advice, right? It's awkward for friends to give friends advice, right? It is. It's true. It's awkward for a friend to give another friend a piece of advice. But it's easy for a stranger to give. If someone comes to me and they're a complete stranger, it's very easy for me to say, "Look, this is your problem, right? You need to do this, 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 this." I'm never going to see them again. Right? It's easy for them to take it too, because they don't have to see me again. But if you're a companion with people, if you keep the company of people for a long period of time, okay, it's hard for now to give them advice. You have a different relationship. Giving hard advice is difficult. And that's why, if you notice, let's say, like, if an imam moves into an area, he moves in and it was with dynamite. He's blowing everything up. This is wrong. This is wrong. Yeah, this is haram. Everything's haram, because he doesn't know anybody, right? But give it 5, 6, 7 years. Now they're friends. Now they visit. Now they see each other all the time. He's got to tone it down a little bit, because he's got to run the marathon with them, right? He's got to run a marathon with these people, with his community, with his friends. Okay. So his advice to them is going to be extremely slow and gentle, right? Which may or may not be a good thing. So usually you find that. So when there's a great distance between people, it's easy for them to give hard advice, right? But whenever as soon as they become close together, you can't just give that acid, right? You can't just give them that really tough advice anymore. Okay, so that's a great wisdom. That's another one of his wisdoms. The happiest you'll ever be is when you put down the dunya, when you reject the dunya. He says that's the happiest you'll be. And then he says another amazing piece of advice. He said, "How terrible are two friends, the dinar and the dirham, the gold coin and the silver coin." He says, why are they bad friends? They only benefit you when you separate from them, right? There's no benefit of money if it's in your pocket. It only benefits you when you spend it. It says knowledge is better than money. You have to protect money, but knowledge protects you. Knowledge benefits you when you acquire it. Money benefits you when you spend it. Right. أصحب الناس بما شئت أن تصحبهم فإنهم سيصحبونك بمثله. Be with people however you want to be with people, because that's how they're going to be with you. If you're somebody who is always bringing negativity, they're going to bring negativity to you someday. If you're always someone who's uplifting, they're going to uplift you someday. He says, nothing has humiliated the dunya and exposed it for what it is like death.